So, Sakura Haruno, arguably the most hated Naruto character. Let me start off by saying that as much as I love the Naruto series, Sakura was rarely ever a part of my enjoyment of the show. If you like her, that's fine. I think it's good that you were able to find something to appreciate in this character that didn't particularly resonate with me. However, instead of blindly hating on her, like most of the fanbase does, I'm going to try to discuss how she was written as a character and why a lot of Naruto fans seem to dislike her. I'm not trying to say that I know more about writing a story than series author Masashi Kishimoto, but I do have the benefit of hindsight to see how certain things were received by readers and viewers of both Naruto and Naruto Shippuden, and this critique is my way of saying what I think could have been done better, because honestly, I wanted this character to be good. I wanted to like her, but I just couldn't considering the material we were given in the show. First of all, I'd like to say that I don't think Sakura is the worst Naruto character. But I do think that since she's a main character, it's justifiable to hold her to a higher standard and expect more from this character than side characters like Ino or Neji. Also, I intend to discuss my issues with Sakura both in terms of the character's personality and her abilities. Let's start with the beginning, Sakura in part 1 of Naruto. When we're first introduced to her, and throughout most of the series, her personality really just boils down to Sasuke, please love me. And while I think it's fine for a character to have a crush on another character, Kishimoto wrote that as her defining personality trait, and that's definitely not enough to make a compelling character. When Kakashi asked the members of Team 7 to introduce themselves, we get clear goals from Naruto and Sasuke. Naruto wants to become Hokage, while Sasuke wants to kill his brother Itachi. Sakura just says that she likes Sasuke, and that's honestly pretty boring. And that's not even mentioning how the way Sakura's crush on Sasuke was handled was honestly very messy. Let's compare her for a while to another character, Hinata. While Hinata's personality was also honestly pretty half-baked, with her mostly just obsessing over Naruto. At least her feelings for Naruto can be explained through the flashbacks where Naruto helped Hinata when they were children. Sakura just seems to like Sasuke because he's cool and every other girl is head over heels crazy for him. They rarely ever had proper interactions to show why Sakura likes this boy so much. Sakura literally ended her friendship with Ino because they like the same boy, despite Ino protecting her from bullies when Sasuke literally did nothing for her. Kishimoto has stated that he tried making Sakura a character that young girls reading the Naruto manga could relate to. Looking at the way he wrote Sakura, I honestly think he was under the impression that young girls have literally no interests other than boys. Speaking of Sasuke, the two of them didn't seem to have a proper teammate dynamic other than her liking him while he didn't really care. In Team 7, while Naruto and Sasuke had a rivalry going on, Sakura was often left out of team interactions despite her supposedly being a main character. For the longest time, she simply was not given any abilities or strengths to keep up with either of them. The early Team 7 dynamic seemed to have been written as Sakura has knowledge, Sasuke is a naturally talented fighter, and Naruto is the underdog who was incompetent at both. However, as Naruto grew in strength, Sakura's lack of combat ability just grew more and more apparent. Kakashi said her chakra control would let her be a good genjutsu user, but this setup never got a proper payoff as she never once used a genjutsu in the whole series. She could resist genjutsu, sure, but that alone isn't enough to make her an interesting ninja. Now that we're on the topic of fighting capability, let's look at what Sakura did in part 1 of the series. In the series' first main story arc, while Naruto, Sasuke, and Kakashi were fighting Zabuza and Haku, Sakura just stood in front of Tazuna the bridge builder and supposedly guarded him, but let's be honest, she wouldn't have been able to do anything if either Zabuza or Haku tried to attack Tazuna. Yes, Kakashi gave her this role, so you can't blame her for doing it, but the fact that she had to wait on the sidelines while everyone else was fighting shows that she did not have any capability to contribute to the fight whatsoever, and that Kishimoto just didn't seem to care enough to give her the ability to do so. Moving on to the Forest of Death from the Chunin exams, the closest Sakura got to having a fight scene was against some of the ninja from the Sound Village when Naruto and Sasuke were unconscious. One of the Sound Ninja grabbed her by the hair and Sakura brought her kunai out, but instead of attacking the ninja, she just cut her hair. The show treats this moment as a cool moment, and I think it was an attempt to show that she was willing to sacrifice something. Since I remember Ino telling Sakura that Sasuke likes girls with long hair, and she just lost this hair. but that just feels so inconsequential, especially since losing her long hair meant to appeal to Sasuke didn't change how much her personality revolved around him. Then, minutes later, Sasuke proceeds to win the fight for her since once again Kishimoto really didn't care enough to make her capable of fighting in part 1. Later in the same arc, when Sakura was preparing for the one-on-one fight, she had a flashback to the haircut and said, if I can get through that, I can get through anything. This sudden determination doesn't feel earned since her haircut is such a small experience compared to Naruto getting swallowed by a snake and Sasuke suffering from the effects of Orochimaru's curse mark. Anyway, moving on to her fight with Ino, while I do think this fight was a decent moment for these two, allowing them to start to regain their friendship, I'd be surprised if anyone said this wasn't the least entertaining fight of the entire arc. Both Ino and Sakura lacked any sort of jutsu that would make the fight interesting aside from maybe Ino's mind transfer technique. But we aren't talking about Ino here. As a main character in a battle shonen, Sakura just didn't have any memorable battles. She couldn't even take part in the Sasuke retrieval arc to try to save the boy she was supposed to be in love with, since she was just a very incapable fighter. I do think Shippuden fixed some of her issues, but Part 1 Sakura was definitely handled very poorly in my opinion. Moving on to Shippuden, I'll be discussing her role in three main parts of the show. The Kazekage rescue arc, the pain arc, and the war arc, plus everything that followed. In Shippuden's first arc, we have what I believe is without a doubt Sakura's best moment in the show. The Kazekage rescue arc had Sakura teaming up with Granny Chiyo to fight Puppet Master Sasori of the Red Sign. This arc showed off both Sakura's newly introduced intense strength and her proficiency as a medical ninja, both things she learned from 5th Hokage and member of the legendary Sanin Tsunade Senju. This arc honestly gave me hope that Shippuden would start fixing Sakura by giving her more attention, and while it did to an extent, I don't think it was enough. Her personality still revolved too much around Sasuke, and she mostly reverted to a background role after this arc. Skipping ahead a few arcs to the Pain arc, Sakura showed off her strength for like 10 seconds. She defeated one of Pain's animal summons, but proceeded to go back to healing the injured after, which didn't make much sense to me. There were countless medical ninja in the village, but aside from Tsunade, who was already using her superior medical ninjutsu to heal most of the injured, only Sakura was capable of hitting something with enough force to leave a crater in the ground. Honestly, her few seconds of fighting in the opening sequence were cooler than anything she actually did in the story. Much later, specifically in the war arc, Sakura's medical capabilities were again highlighted over her immense strength. The only notable opponent she defeated was the White Zetsu pretending to be Neji, but I honestly can't consider that a display of strength, since White Zetsu weren't particularly durable, but at least it showed that she was smart enough to find out she wasn't talking to the real Neji. Later in the show, I can't deny that she did help save Naruto's life when Kurama was extracted from him, but in terms of her feats of strength, I can't help but feel underwhelmed by what she accomplished here. Yes, she unlocked the strength of 100 seal, which increased her capabilities immensely, but she was still considerably weaker than Naruto and Sasuke before those two got their 6 paths power boost. Of course, defeating as many Jubi clones as she did was impressive, but that scene was so short that I don't think it was able to properly showcase her abilities. I can't blame her for not doing much against Kaguya since it isn't her fault that she isn't a reincarnation of some ancient legendary ninja. And Kakashi wasn't able to do much before receiving a perfect Susanoo, so she gets a pass here. Plus, she did supply Obito with chakra, which helped them reunite with Sasuke. However, why is it such an issue that her medical ninjutsu was always her main contribution? It's because Sakura's abilities aren't supposed to be limited to just being a healer. Sakura has her sensei's amazing taijutsu abilities, but we rarely get to see her use them after the Sasori fight. A similar problem can also be seen with characters like Rock Lee and Neji, who get their chance to shine in fights early on in the series, but get pushed aside after a while. Kishimoto gave many side characters their time in the spotlight after introducing them, then seemed to forget about them afterwards. However, Sakura, a main character, unfortunately seems to suffer from this too. However, I do think that if Sakura was exclusively a healer, it would have been acceptable for her to stay out of fights. No one gets mad when Full Metal Alchemist's Winry doesn't contribute to fight scenes because she isn't a fighter, she's just a mechanic. Sakura, however, is so much more than a medic, and when the show ignores this, it's honestly frustrating. Back to her sensei Tsunade, I think it's worth comparing the two to further show what went wrong with Sakura. While Tsunade isn't exactly the pinnacle of character writing, I do think she was written better than Sakura. First, let's look at what the anime and manga show us about these two women in terms of their love interests. As I've stated numerous times, Sakura has been extremely fixated on Sasuke for most of the show, though not as much as Karen at least. Tsunade, on the other hand, was sad over Dan's death, but it was never her defining personality trait. It can honestly be argued that Shippuden worsened Sakura's obsession over Sasuke. They interacted even less in Shippuden than in Part 1, yet her life still seemed to revolve around him. Sasuke literally tried to kill her, yet she still wanted him, and that's crazy to me. Continuing with the Tsunade comparisons, I also feel like Sakura's abilities were too similar to Tsunade's. Looking at Naruto and Jiraiya, it doesn't take long to see how different their fighting styles are. They both use Rasengan and Sage Mode, but that's it. Sasuke also used some snake jutsu from Orochimaru, but his abilities were extremely different from Orochimaru's. Sakura was not able to separate herself enough from her sensei, and I feel that this harms her as a character, especially since I believe Tsunade was written much better. Sticking to this comparison, let's look at two similar scenes. I believe one worked a lot better than the other. The first is when Madara was belittling Tsunade and she responded with, "I'm a woman, yes, but not a weak one." Similarly, when Sakura was about to punch Kaguya in the final arc of Shippuden, she said to her, "I'm a woman too, so don't mock me." Both of these paint the characters as strong women who the women watching the show or reading the manga are supposed to look up to. However, I think Tsunade's line works much better because it was a response to Madara calling her a weak woman since she was nowhere near her grandfather's level of strength. On the other hand, Sakura's line seemed to come out of nowhere. I don't know if there was some sort of translation inconsistency, but Kaguya never mocked Sakura. She never paid much attention to Sakura at all. The line doesn't feel as earned because there was no real reason for her to say it to Kaguya. As the last point of comparison between the two, I think Tsunade had more of a character arc than Sakura did, which is saying a lot since, as mentioned earlier, Sakura was a main character while Tsunade was in the supporting cast. When Tsunade was introduced, she was still dealing with the deaths of her lover, Dan, and her brother, Naoki. She had to overcome her fear of blood and learn to accept the role of Hokage. We saw her go from a cynical woman who mocked the position of the Hokage to someone who, through Naruto's help, realized that to defend the village as Hokage would not only be an honor but would also allow her to live out Dan and Naoki's dreams of protecting the people of Konoha. The closest Sakura got to a character arc was feeling useless since she felt she was always behind Naruto and Sasuke, then finally catching up to them. Well, while this could have worked, I don't think it was properly executed when, even though she was a powerful and respectable kunoichi, she never really matched Naruto and Sasuke's power levels. Maybe if they gave her a goal of some sort, like being able to help a lot of people as a medic, and they showed her doing her best and struggling to do so, she would have had a more compelling character arc. Of course, she did heal countless people, but they never really showed it as something she aspired to, and it was more of her responsibility as Tsunade's pupil. Finally, let's talk about the events of the 5 Kage Summit. I saved this arc for last because I feel like it was one of the arcs that treated Sakura especially poorly. Yes, she showed determination when she chose to try to deal with Sasuke herself, but this went out the window when she hesitated and Naruto had to save her. Of course, we can't ignore her manipulating Naruto by pretending she loved him when she knew he had feelings for her for the longest time, just so Naruto wouldn't pursue Sasuke. Speaking of which, I do think her interactions with Naruto were inconsistent throughout the show, to say the least. It was shown that she had great respect for him when she got mad at Sai for doubting him when he was training to add wind style to the Rasengan, but she also seems to hit him harder than her enemies. Although I do think the violent woman trope is a common anime trope used for comedy, and Kishimoto didn't intend for this to be seen in a negative way. But of course, that won't stop people from interpreting it as such, and once a work is released into the world, it's left open to the interpretation of any reader or viewer. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Sakura. And I've thought a few things, such as when she wasn't able to destroy the Rinnegan that Obito had, despite her being a medical ninja who should be trained extensively in surgical operations. But the video's getting pretty long already, and I think I was able to get my point across anyway. Once again, I don't intend to just blindly hate on Sakura, and I really wish she was handled better since I do think the Naruto series definitely could have used more strong female characters. Many Naruto characters suffered from Kishimoto's writing flaws similarly to Sakura, and a lot of characters were arguably treated worse. So I hope this analysis of Sakura can bring those issues to light. If you think I missed anything or want to give a counter argument to something I said, feel free to comment down below, and thanks for watching. If you liked the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Until next time, goodbye.